Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking on something pretty monumental, Lucretius's ancient Roman poem on the nature of things.
Right. And our main source for this dive is actually an introduction to a translation, but one from, well, all the way back in 1872.
So our mission is to unpack the big ideas, maybe some surprising connections, and really ask why a work finished around 55 BC might still feel, well, relevant to you today. Let's get into it.
We should probably start with Lucretius himself, though he's, frankly, a bit of a mystery.
Yeah, not much known, is there?
No, almost nothing except through this poem. We know he dedicated it to a figure named C. Memmius. There are these later stories about him going mad, but they're generally dismissed now.
And the key fact is his death, right? Around 55 BC, leaving the poem unfinished.
Exactly. Died suddenly, poem left as it was.
So this huge, complex poem, it's basically built on Greek philosophy, isn't it?
That's right. Fundamentally, it's explaining the atomic theory of Democritus and the moral ideas of Epicurus.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just, philosophy for philosophy's sake. Lucretius had a real mission.
A moral mission, you could say.
Absolutely. His whole drive was to free people's minds. Your mind, he'd argue, from, well, two massive fears, the fear of death and the fear of the gods. He saw these as the source of awful suffering.
And impious deeds, as the source puts it.
Yes, exactly. He uses that incredibly powerful example of Iphigenia.
Oh, yeah, the sacrifice. A father killing his daughter because of religious superstition.
It's brutal. And for Lucretius, it showed just how destructive these fears could be. His answer was to explain the real nature of things, rationally.
Which brings us to his foundational principle in Book 1, that nothing can from nothing come.
Right. And the implication is huge. It means matter must be eternal. It doesn't need a divine creator to pop into existence. It's always been here, made of these tiny, indestructible first principles.
Atoms.
Atoms, yes. Or first beginnings, as he sometimes calls them.
Okay, so eternal matter, made of atoms. But then he also insists on the existence of void, empty space. Why was that so important?
Well, think about it. Without empty space, how could anything move?
Ah, right. No room for atoms to shift around.
Exactly. He points to everyday things, like how do wet clothes dry if water can't move away? How does dripping water wear down stone? There has to be void, empty space, for this constant, often unseen movement to happen.
So the universe, for Lucretius, is just these two things, matter and void. That's it.
Fundamentally, yes. Everything else we experience, color, heat, sound, even time, these aren't separate substances. They're just properties or accidents, as he termed them.
Properties or accidents, meaning they depend on the arrangement of matter in the void.
Precisely. Like, the wetness of water isn't some extra thing. It's just how the water atoms are behaving and interacting.
Got it. And these atoms themselves, he described them as solid, unbreakable, having smallest possible parts, infinite in number, but not infinite in shape, right?
Correct. Infinite number of atoms, but a limited variety of shapes and sizes. And this is key to how he tried to explain sensations.
Like smooth atoms for nice tastes, jagged ones for unpleasant.
Kind of, yeah. Round and smooth for honey or milk, maybe. Yeah. Rough, sharp ones for wormwood or the sound of a saw grating. It's a very early, very physical attempt to connect the micro world to our senses.
And these atoms are constantly moving, buzzing around, even when things look still.
Yes. His analogy is brilliant. Imagine seeing sheep on a distant hill.
Okay.
A whole flock looks like one still, woolly mass, right?
Yeah.
But each individual sheep is moving, grazing, shifting. It's the same with atoms. Macroscopic stillness hides frantic microscopic motion.
Okay, this next bit is fascinating, and you mentioned it connects right to us, the listener. The Kleineman, the swerve.
Ah, the swerve, yes. It's a tiny, unpredictable sideways jolt in an atom's path as it falls through the void.
Seems minor, but why is it so vital?
Because without it, atoms would just fall in straight, parallel lines forever. They'd never collide, never combine to form.
So it allows for creation.
It allows for complexity, for collisions, yes. But more profoundly, it breaks what would otherwise be a completely deterministic universe, a rigid chain of fate.
And that relates to free will.
That's his argument. That tiny bit of randomness at the atomic level is what makes free will possible for living things, for animals, for us. It introduces genuine spontaneity.
So if the universe runs on atoms and void and natural laws, where do the gods fit in? Did he just ditch them?
Not quite. He didn't deny they existed, but he radically reimagined them. He thought they lived in a state of perfect tranquility, completely untroubled.
And completely uninvolved with us or the world.
Exactly. Utterly detached. They didn't create the world. They don't intervene. They don't answer prayers. The universe runs by its own physical laws, not by divine whim or providence.
Which must have massive implications for how you should live your life.
Huge. It feeds directly into his moral teaching, which draws on Epicurus but feels, well, distinctly Roman. More severe, maybe.
So if the gods don't care and there's no afterlife to fear,
Then happiness has to be found here and now, by understanding nature and living simply. He really rails against superstition, but also things like ambition, chasing wealth, excessive pleasure, things he saw as unnatural and sources of misery.
just live according to nature.
Basically, yes, find peace by limiting desires to what's natural and necessary.
It's really striking how many of his ideas seem to, foreshadow later scientific or philosophical thought.
It is remarkable. I mean, his fundamental materialism, the idea that reality is just physical stuff, that resonates deeply, but also hints of evolutionary thinking, like the progressive advance of humans or denying final cause as purpose in nature, feels quite modern sometimes.
And he did all this in verse. We can't forget he was a poet.
A truly great one. Using poetry for dense philosophy is incredibly difficult, but his descriptions of nature especially are just stunning. So vivid, you feel nature as this immense, powerful force.
Influenced Virgil, Milton.
Absolutely. That mix of Greek intellectual curiosity and sort of Roman strength and seriousness in his writing was very powerful.
It really is amazing how this poem, over 2,000 years old, tackles things we still wrestle with. Fear, trying to find truth amidst confusion, searching for the underlying laws of reality.
It feels very relevant, doesn't it? His struggle seems quite familiar in our own age of, information overload and anxieties.
Yeah, what's the takeaway here?
Well, this dive shows an ancient mind, Lucretius, grappling with questions about the universe, about existence, about meaning that are still absolutely central to us today. He was looking for truth in the nature of things, not just in tradition or fear. And maybe that prompts a question for you listening now. In our world, with all its complexities and anxieties, how do we cut through the noise to see the real nature of things and maybe free ourselves from our own modern superstitions?